Today on Faith on Tap, leaving a legacy. What is the driving force behind human desires to leave a legacy?
There's a vein of selfishness to it, I think, a little that we want to be remembered. We all want to leave a mark. We all want to change the world, whatever it is. And I think there's always a little bit of selfishness, but I don't think that has to be the driving factor of it. If I'm remembered well, that means that the things that I made goals in my life, I somewhat achieved. And so it could look like a successful gambit that way.
Is this innate as a species? If so, how do we make the best choices for leaving a meaningful footprint?
Yeah, I have a sense that human nature is human nature to a certain degree, and desire to be remembered or to make your footprint, leave a footprint on the world, I think that could be somewhat universal.
Thoughts and discussions on this and much more today on Faith on Tap. And welcome. We are at Black Hog Brewery in Oxford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
And although they're under construction, they do have a fine choice of beers. And and of course Liz, because she likes duplicating whatever I have.
Always have to.
Yeah, is a Irish cream coffee stout. And I really like it. It's only a 5.5, but I do like the non-sweetness of it, and the flavors are really pronounced. So
Very strong coffee element. It's
0
really
to 10, I give it an 8.5. What would you give it?
Yeah.
Same exact number.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's solid.
Go ahead, Dennis.
I went with just a New England IPA this evening called Shadow Worlds. And, it was good. It was tasty. It was light. Wasn't the best one I've had. Wasn't the worst one I've had. I would have it again if opportunity presented itself. So, yeah. 1 to 10, I'd give it probably a solid 7.5.
Better than halfway. That's good. And tonight, we're going to have a fun question. Something that's going to make people think. The question is, what do you want to be remembered when you die? What do you want to be remembered? I'm not sure what to expect. I really don't. It's hard to take that question and just have fun with it, but I'm sure people could. But I think it might be something that people might reflect on.
True. It brings up the subject of death, and I'm not sure a lot of people think about their demise, especially I'm looking around, there's a lot of younger people here.
Yeah, I think the younger that we talk to, the more they're just it's going to be
glossed over a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, we're like, I hadn't thought of it, or, that I was a good person. It's going to be.
Yeah, what's a good person?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting.
Let's see who's right. Let's go talk to the people.
Your name?
My name is Sean.
Yep, hold it right up there.
Yep.
Sean, I'm Dennis. It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
What would you like to be remembered for after you die?
Loyalty and leadership.
Loyalty and leadership.
Yeah.
How come?
I think it's, there's a couple things that you can, when you leave behind, there's a couple good things. Most aren't monetary. I think those are things people remember most, and those are the good stories people tell. So
loyalty and leadership.
Yeah.
And now, are you actively pursuing those themes in your life so that make sure that
I try, right? So I'm president of a company right now, privately held company. Definitely worked my way through, went to school at Hard Knocks first, then, tried to work my way, getting a higher education. But yeah, so I am. Yeah.
So you're president of a company.
Yep.
And so you must have to deal with teams and people, underlings, and getting the best out of people. What's your secret?
Just being transparent, building trust, making sure, I'm the same today that I am tomorrow, and try to be very, very consistent. So that's it. Just be who I am.
Is there, so this desire of leadership and also loyalty, is there any type of faith component to that for you?
Yeah, for sure. There's always a faith component. I think that helps keep me grounded from a religious standpoint, but it doesn't make me it's not all who I am, right? It just helps a little bit of a grounding rod. So I'd say, yeah.
And so do you actively pursue your faith, or is it kind of a very personal, quiet thing for you?
A little bit of both, right? So when I feel I make sure that I stay connected to it, and what faith means to me might not mean to the next person. So I think it's very specific to myself. So it all depends.
Very cool. If I were to ask some of your executives if you're known for loyalty and leadership? Would they agree with me?
I think they would. I think they would lead with that. I think they would say he leads by example. He's the first guy in the battle, last one off the field. So I think they would.
That's the Mel Gibson movie, right?
Yeah.
The Vietnam movie.
Yeah, for sure.
That was good. Great.
What would you like to be remembered for after you leave this mortal coil?
Being a nice person.
Okay, so your name is?
Nathaniel.
Hi, Nathaniel. I'm Liz. So you want to be remembered for what's it?
Nothing big. Just like I wanted people to have like random stories about like cool stuff I did or like nice stuff I did. Just like, oh, remember that one time you did that one like little thing or whatever, stuff like that.
Okay, give me an example of a story. Let's say you walk out of here and a brick falls on your head. The story people are going to tell other than the brick on your head is?
I don't know. The brick on the head's going to be pretty hard to beat.
It will be hard to beat, but let's see what you
we've
got.
had some good luck here recently, so I'm hoping that people talk about like my victories in trivia here.
Oh,
or,
is it trivia
just like,
tonight?
yeah, just like random stuff I did in high school. Like, hey, remember the time you said that one thing? Or like, oh, like I had a flat tire and he helped me with that or whatever.
Oh, that's good.
Just little stuff
That's
like
cool.
that.
I like to hear that. Michael, what would you like to be remembered for?
I suppose being a little closer to the end, I should be thinking about this more than you have.
I know he came right up with an
that
answer right
was
away.
good. That was a good plan, right? So this is kind of a roundabout story, but we have this. I sort of have this standing agreement with a bunch of my friends, and it got started by someone. It's a little bit of a story. Is that okay?
Yeah, love stories.
This gentleman I was speaking to was at a funeral, and they said, "Does anyone like to say anything about the deceased?" One guy just stood up and said he was a good guy. Sat down. That was it. Right?
Wow.
End of story.
Okay.
Everybody looked at each other, so they went over, asked him, and like, what happened? He goes, well, he and the deceased had a deal that whoever went first, the other person would stand up at his funeral and say he was a good guy. And that was it. So I've since made that agreement with a number of my friends. Hopefully they remember. So somehow when I go, I want like a whole bunch of people just to stand up one line. He was a good guy and sit down. And that'll really puzzle the heck out of everybody else.
That's hilarious. I love that idea. Now, the question is that what you really want to be remembered for?
I just want to be remembered as a good guy.
Okay. So what have you done in your life to have people have that sentiment? Say, Michael, what a good guy. Let me tell you why.
Other than raising two pretty good kids. I don't know. I like to think I'm the kind of person that people call me when they need something, when they need help, and they know I would always say yes.
That's a beautiful thing. I agree with that. I try to be that person myself. Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with that. That's really good.
Hey, Liz, how's life treating you?
Oh, it's lovely. I'm in a first name with Murphy, from Murphy's Law.
Yes, we do. Yes, thank you.
Ask me how life's treating me.
Hi, Norm. How's life treating you?
Like I just ran over its dog.
There you go. There you go.
That's a Norm response too.
That is a Norm response. And this is from the Troubadour of Truth.
Ooh.
Oh, Troubadour reminds me of tights. Tights make me uncomfortable, so no.
Just going with the tights. There's no truth involved.
Yeah, forget about the truth.
Well, the truth is the tights, so I'm going to have to. Troubadour doesn't. Yeah.
All right.
What is the verb of troubadour, though? What is troubadouring? What does that entail?
Traveling musicians. I'm going to go troubadour later on.
Troubadourian of truth. All right, maybe it's growing on me.
Okay, well,
all right,
with or without tights, but
with it, if that's the option,
please wear the tights.
Had some nice responses, some somewhat thoughtful, and somewhat younger people had somewhat less in-depth responses. I know for Nathaniel, he wanted to be remembered for winning in trivia and some other small things.
Yeah. Oh, he was like, I don't know, 22, 23, something in that age.
So not quite thinking about his legacy at that time. We had Michael. He wanted to be remembered as being a good guy. Yeah. Giving helping hand to others, etc.
That's a really noble hope.
Nothing wrong with about being remembered as being a good guy or
correct.
Nothing wrong with being remembered and being good in trivia, I guess, either.
Why not both?
Yeah, why not both? The troubadour over there, you interviewed Sean.
Yeah.
He was expressing loyalty and leadership that were very important to him. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess his job or his position in his company as a president kind of brings these two things to the surface that are important to him. So he wants to lead his company well. and he wants to be an example of leadership in his company.
Loyalty. Which is funny, during the interview, both of you forgot the loyalty.
Forgot loyalty. The loyalty part, I can understand it. It seemed, I got the sense that I feel like he's a good boss. And what I mean by that is he's got his employees back as much as he possibly can. And so I have this sense that he lives this loyalty where he's loyal to his employees as much as a president of a company can be. And what he wants to be remembered for, I think he also wants his employees to give back to him a sense of loyalty to the company, to the mission, to whatever is taking place there.
Do you know if he was a family man?
I did not ask that. No.
I'm just curious, because he was mentioning two work-related things to be remembered by. I was just wondering if he had family or not. I think as we do get older, we do start thinking of legacy. What do we want to leave behind? I'm sure during the last week when we asked the question, you've had time to simmer that question yourselves. I'm not looking for one thing. I'm sure you might have several responses, but what are some things that you'd like to be remembered for?
Remember when I was in college, I took a class on death and dying. I was, 19 at the time. And I remember my response was, I want to be remembered as someone who loved God and loved people. I was such an idealist back then.
There's nothing wrong with
those
two things.
Here I am.
Those are good things.
Yeah, it is good. I'm 3 times that age now, and I still think those are good. And I'm still working on both of them. I think I'm getting better at loving people and getting to know God through, the scripture and the teachings that we do, the lessons that we all do on Monday nights has been huge. And every sermon on Sunday is amazing. Yes, you troubadour of truth.
Yeah, and then we go to Oasis and hear Dennis.
So I think I've been growing in both of those. I mean, I guess I'm still an idealist.
I don't know why it's being an idealist. You want to be remembered for loving people and loving God.
It's almost biblical.
Yeah.
It's been something I've been working on for, since I was 19.
Admirable.
Definitely.
How are you, Dennis?
I toss around a lot of things. Do I want to be remembered for being a pastor or some aspect of ministry? And I always come back to the simplicity of I want to be remembered by my children, which are only 2, that I was a good dad. If I can pull that off, then it feels like to me the other things just kind of fall into place as a priority. But and it's just I don't want other people to think I'm a good dad. I just want my 2 kids to know that I was a good dad, to know that they were loved, and I hope to pass that good dadness on to my grandchildren as they come.
You're gonna love it.
I can't wait.
It's great.
Now, I'm not going to ask you if they loved you or not when they're going through their teens, but right now
no, they didn't. No. My son always used to yell at me I should move to Texas. I don't know why Texas, but we have a good relationship.
But all honesty, right now, you would be very confident that both would feel that you are a good dad.
I would think, yes, we have a good relationship with our kids. We constantly talk to them almost every day. And so I would think that I would pass a good dad thing. I want it to be when I'm gone, I want my kids to think about things as life presents situations and circumstances to them, to think about when dad and I did that, or what would dad do, those types of things. And so it's really hard to measure, but I think both Sandy and our kids like us, and they call us and they want to talk to us and they FaceTime as a family. And
you're pretty sure it's not because of the money.
Definitely. Yeah. The only thing we'll leave them is bills.
Well, that's awesome. I guess when I was thinking about that, it obviously is multifaceted, because I don't think I'm different things to different people. To my wife, I want her to think of, I was a good husband. I was there for her. He's a good
husband.
Hopefully she'll mean it when I die.
Such enthusiasm.
No, I was saying it with a sultry voice.
Oh, is that what it was? It's like you're falling asleep.
No.
I'd like my kids to believe that I was a good dad. I would like people in my life or my friends to think that I was there for them. I had their back. And my job, I would think that my teachers or students would look at me and say, yeah, I tried my best and I did the best I could. So I do want to be all those things, because I wear those different faces, the different crowds I'm in. And to God, I know He loves me. I would hope that people would look at me and say, yeah, he stood for Jesus. He loved Jesus. those are my goals.
I have a question off the top roundabout. In your careers as teachers, how many students do you think you've taught over what, almost 30 years?
I mean, a rough estimate would probably, for me, maybe about 2,500, something like that.
Wow,
It's about 2,200.
I thought it to be more.
Maybe, I don't know. I just,
No, it'd be less for me because I did looping for 3 years, so about 1,900.
So you have 2,500 opportunities.
Right.
That's almost scary.
Yeah. It is. And it's not as important as being in church and having to give a sermon that's maybe not on target and maybe having the possibility of someone losing their soul.
Jumping off the bridge.
No, but seriously, it does feel good when someone from a year ago to 25 years ago contacts me and when we have some type of relationship. It does feel good. This week alone, there's, and my kids, there's 3 different things I did. I helped my son buy a new car. I helped one of my daughters. We're building concrete steps. My other daughter is having a baby and we're helping her out there. So it's just kind of neat to have that happen. But I guess a bigger question that I have when I was thinking about this is like, why do we want to be remembered for anything? I mean, in this sense, it's like if we're Christians, we love Jesus, we don't care what other people think. Even if we say we are a loving husband, loving father, loving blah, blah, blah. Why do we care what other people think?
Because we're representing God here.
What if we truly are doing those things, but people just don't see it?
Well, then I would say it makes never mind. Either way, we have to have the integrity of representing the Lord here.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just wondering whether our motives, when we go deep down, is it because of pride? Is it because of lack of confidence? I want to be remembered because I am good, right? I am good.
We interviewed people and they're like, oh, I haven't thought of it, because people aren't thinking about, I really need to leave a legacy. People aren't thinking like that.
Well, let me ask this question.
Ask them,
when you think about funerals, your funeral in particular, which I don't know how often you guys do that, but I mean,
enough.
Don't you want to think that there'd be a bunch of people wanting to give their respects to you? I hope there's 2 people that show up because they got lost and they ended up in there. I mean, we all want to be liked and we want to be remembered as being nice. And it's nothing. I'm not saying this is a bad thing.
Right. There's a vein of selfishness to it, I think, a little, that we want to be remembered. We all want to leave a mark. We all want to change the world, whatever it is. And I think there's always a little bit of selfishness, but I don't think that has to be the driving factor of it. If I'm remembered well, that means that the things that I made goals in my life, I somewhat achieved. And so it could look like a successful gambit that way. And, and the reality of it is, unless we're some great world famous person, within a few generations, we're forgotten of anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. On that happy note.
Amen.
Everything's folly. So I guess for me, I just don't want to be misinterpreted. If people are not going to like me, I want them not to like me for the right reason. Because otherwise, like, I didn't do a good job of expressing who I really am. It's like, that's a little frustrating. And again, that would be pride on that aspect.
But you're never going to have everyone completely understand who you are.
No.
And that's.
But I'm saying
there's that line.
No, but being a solid person, being a solid father, husband, friend, etc. You can show that, at least that attribute can be shown to people if you're doing a good job of it anyways.
Correct.
I was just wondering if we went back in time and say in 1960, there are such things as podcasting, we would go to a bar and ask people these questions. Do you think they'd generally have the same type of responses? Do you think they'd be deeper? Do you think they'd be more superficial? I know it's all conjecture here, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I have a sense that human nature is human nature to a certain degree, and desire to be remembered or to make your footprint, leave a footprint on the world. I think that could be somewhat universal, though I think cultures will put that either further or behind on the hierarchical the totem pole of where it should be. But I think part of human nature is, we want to leave a little bit something.
Absolutely. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that either.
No, I don't.
Especially if what we want to leave behind is something positive. I guess a lot of people think of money, and coming from teaching and thinking of pastoring,
no money.
we're not going to be blessed with living a lot of that. But more importantly, I do hope that like our offsprings can be better because of who we are. Our friends can be better because of who we are, etc.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I listened to, or I saw a YouTube video of a woman. She was a cleaner after people passed away. The kids had come through and taken what they wanted, and they would go through. And she said how sad it was that what they were putting into the garbage was like photographs and letters and memories. And she goes, nobody wanted these things. It's just, she said that was the saddest part of the job, was just taking all of these things that represent memory.
I remember a person from our church. I got a phone call. He had a heart attack. I drove to his house. He was very close to where I live. And they were working on him in the ambulance, and the doors were open. And I can see he was gone, but they were trying their best. So, a few days later now, we have to help his widow clean out the apartment. They went from a really big house to a small apartment. And so they just had lots and lots of stuff. And so she got a dumpster. And I remember thinking to myself, this is what it comes down to. We are bringing all of this guy's stuff to the dumpster. Journals, notebooks, things he collected. That really is our lot in life. I mean, eventually it all goes in the dumpster, except for that somebody's life was made better by us being alive.
Exactly. Very good.
Yeah, otherwise dust to dust. Right?
Yep. Read Ecclesiastes.
Yeah. On that note, make a difference in the world. Have a good night. Tune in next episode when you'll hear Dennis say,
Jesus, he rose from the something, and he was in the ashes and poured water on the altar.
Hey, awesome listener. If you're enjoying our podcast, give us a little love, like, share, follow, and snag this episode for later. It's the easiest way to keep the good times rolling and make our day. You're the best. Thank you.